toxic and worse with alcohol. Chamomile, some people can drink it, some people have allergies and shouldn't use it. So melatonin I feel very safe with, and I know a whole group of daycare centers now have figured it out. You know, when they get these little kids and they won't go down for a nap and they can't go to sleep, and then they're sleep deprived and they turn into these little, you know, demons. You know? And then they go home and they won't eat, and their mind, you know, and they won't go to sleep, and then they finally crash, and then, you know, wake up the next morning and start the whole process over again. But they figured out a relatively low dose of melatonin can help these kids get a nap, and then they're actually functional. They can, you know, interact appropriately in their daycare and, you know, continue to do well at home, eating and sleeping appropriately at night as well. So these are all things to keep in mind. Now for the fun stuff. Neurotransmitters. These are little packages, and they are the form of communication from one cell to another in nerve cells. There's always a breakdown system, and many pharmaceutical agents are going to block the breakdown system or intensify it or modify that in some way. But before you can make these neurotransmitters, you have to have the building blocks, and those are going to come from amino acids and cofactors. The process is basically there's some amino acid precursor and some cofactors, and that makes a neurotransmitter. That gets packaged into this little ball inside of one nerve cell, and that vesicle or little ball gets released into the space between neurons, or the synapse. And it's picked up very quickly by a neuron on the other side. And it tends to be either taken back up into one of the cells or broken down with enzymes. So the steps that can be changed or modified are providing more precursors, or more of the specific amino acids you need, more of the cofactors required to create the neurotransmitter. You can change how it's released into the space between the neurons. Calcium channel blockers are an example of something that's going to change that. It may be picked up by the neuron on the other side. And then the enzymes that break it down or taken up, take this neurotransmitter up, can be altered as well. And an example is going to be, they're called specific serotonin reuptake inhibitors. That's an example of this, and that would be something like Prozac is an example. So there also, we have to understand there's some internal regulation. Let's just say that there's all this neurotransmitter is being released. The body has systems whereby it down-regulates or decreases the number of receptors. And that's why, even though people may improve on medications like Prozac, we have to continually increase the dosages because there are fewer and fewer receptors for that serotonin to hit. The other situation, that's my little lady, she's just basically trying to plug her ears. Too much information. So she's going to down-regulate her receptors. Now, if there's not enough information, we're going to make more receptors. And this is the body's natural response. If it thinks there's too little serotonin or too little beta-endorphin, it will tend to try and turn up the volume, okay? It's going to make more receptors. They won't be bigger, like Will Smith's ears here, but there'll be more of these receptors. So the brain can get that feeling, that information there.
Does this also work with insulin and downregulation of to responsivity to insulin, for instance?
Let me think about this. One of the reasons that I've been taught. Now you've asked a question I don't have a perfect answer for. I've never looked that up specifically, but I've heard and encountered a couple of articles about this. Is one of the reasons. Well, they're talking about with type 2 diabetes why heavy people are more predisposed to type 2 diabetes, and the answer is the fat cells are so big because, you don't really develop more fat cells. They just get much bigger. They're so big, the receptors are spread so far apart, there's not enough insulin to bounce off them. So, to connect with them, I should say. And it's bouncing off the membrane instead. Maybe that's the way I should describe it. Now, why do skinny people have type 2 diabetes? I don't have a good answer for that. You remember, just for the audience, type 2 diabetes is the one where you've got plenty of insulin. Your body just doesn't respond to it properly. whereas type 1 diabetes is the one where there's not enough insulin. The pancreas does not make nearly enough insulin. So, I don't think it's such a downregulation. But now that you've asked it, now I'm going to have to go look it up. Can't do it now. I'll have to look it up though. Now, withdrawal is a situation when an addictive substance is withdrawn from a body that's addicted to it. The body screams for it. People may become irritable. They may have a headache, diarrhea, joint pain, flu-like symptoms. It almost sounds like my hangover from my sugar high that I got from eating half a gallon of ice cream. Or not me personally, but you know, in the example I gave a little while ago of these sugar-sensitive people. And this withdrawal situation is why you can't abruptly stop certain medications. Effexor is one example. Now, when you take it away, you'll feel terrible, and then when you resupply it, you feel better for a while. But one of the things we know about, you know, sort of the addiction medicine is that that only works for a while because there was a feedback loop that created a problem there in the first place. So you have to do certain things to try and break that cycle. Now, we all have the most incredible pharmacy in the known universe is located between the ears of every person listening to this. Your internal pharmacy makes serotonin, beta-endorphin, epinephrine, dopamine, acetylcholine, GABA-histamine. There's a whole slew of them. And what we have to understand is those substances are responsible for our mood, for our learning ability, for our ability to focus, for coordination. These are all going to play a role in how we are able to relate to other people in our relationships, as well as physiologic functions throughout the body like heart rate, blood pressure, blood glucose. This is, you know, an incredibly powerful engine, I guess, making these. And they're also responsible for making all our moods. There are only 63 here. Probably, if you thought about it, you could think of another 40 different moods. I mean, we're more than just happy, sad. We can be embarrassed. We can be guilty. We can feel proud or peaceful. We can feel bored or bashful. I mean, there are 1,000 ways that these things put together and fit together to allow us to feel what we're feeling. So now this is complicated. I don't want you to memorize it, please. The point is, for the neurotransmitters in this column on the right, tyrosine, dopamine, norepinephrine, acetylcholine, serotonin, histamine, GABA, for these neurotransmitters, you have to have a precursor and nutrients. We'll talk about the nutrients in a little while, but the precursors, the main thing to notice is that these are basically amino acids, phenylalanine, tyrosine. Tyrosine is made from phenylalanine. Phenylalanine is incredibly important because from this tyrosine we get things like dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine. Choline is turned into acetylcholine. Tryptophan is turned into serotonin. Histidine, glutamic acid, all these things are incredibly important. And where do amino acids come from? Protein. So it's going to be very important if you've got issues, you want to make sure you've got, you know, all your neurotransmitters are going, you may have to supplement specific amino acids. But the most important thing is to make sure that you've got the protein going into your body every day so that your body can do the work. Oops, wrong one. There we go. So things to keep in mind. Yes, you have to have the amino acids. They come from proteins. You must have the cofactors. If the cofactors are not optimized, it doesn't matter how much of the amino acid you have. It doesn't, your body can't do it. You have to have the cofactors. Some people, glutamate can be adversely stimulating. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Phenylalanine is the one made into tyrosine, which is turned into dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. But remember, there are people out there with phenylketonuria. Most of them are going to know it. Most of the states have screens, mandatory screening of newborn babies to find this condition, because if we don't treat